Thank you so much for coming on the last day of Summit. It's been an amazing few days. So good that I lost quite a bit of my voice, but very thankful for microphones right now. I'm really excited to be joined here today with two incredible Knak customers who are going to be sharing their stories with you. And I thought just quickly I'd go through some of my story as a marketer. So, this is my 8th Adobe Summit now, and I've lost a lot of hair since then. But this was me at my first job at IBM. And my job at that point was to put emails together. Now, I'm not an email developer, I'm a marketer, and it was always so challenging for me to use my creativity when I needed to learn how to code. I did look into learning how to code, and I went to our bookstore, and it was like a 500-page book. And I decided, you know what, I really want to just change this for marketers so that they don't ever need to know how to code. So back in 2015, this is still when there was the Marketo Summits happening. I did a presentation on emails and landing pages made simple. And this was really at the time where we thought, hey, let's make it really easy to make templates. And that was our first iteration of the Knak product. Our customers made over 50,000 Marketo templates using our product. And we learned something really important, which is that, like all of us marketers, we love to tinker. We love to change things. We want that flexibility, but in the enterprise, we also know we need the control. And so when we looked at first, we're going to solve this problem, we thought, hey, let's solve the template problem. But when you're looking to scale campaign creation across an enterprise, there's actually a bunch of other challenges that you need to solve for. And that's what I'm really excited for both Don and Paul to share their story. One thing before I pass it over to them, back in 2019, we had a session with a few of our other customers, Nokia, Palo Alto Networks, and Citrix. And this is really the beginning of them learning how to scale their campaign creation and balancing that flexibility and control. And over the last 4 years, this has been really come to life and made a reality. And that's what I'm super excited to bring our speakers on today. So when I think of Meta and Don, I think of innovation, visionary ideas, and execution. Don has over a decade's experience leading marketing operations teams, and he's the marketing automation lead at Meta, where he owns both the Marketo and Knak ecosystems. We had Don speak to our company all-hand meeting last summer, and he got rave reviews from our team, and you're about to see why. Over to you, Don.
Very good. Thank you, Pierce. Check, check. Cool. All right, again, my name is Don. I'm just incredibly honored to be here. I met a lot of friends at this very summit and met a lot of thought leaders, been the recipient of a lot of speakers at Summit. So really, it's really with a spirit of gratitude and humility that I'm here today. So thank you, and thank you, okay? So the structure of today's conversation is we're gonna go through a thought exercise together, okay? Because we need to ground ourselves in a premise and a problem statement. Because if we don't agree on the premise or the problem statement, then frankly, the rest of the presentation falls apart. And the line that I love to use at work is, if it's not relevant, there's always Amazon shopping or email or Netflix. Go ahead. I would not be offended, right? Because I'm here to deliver relevance today, okay? So the thought exercise. Then number 2, we're gonna talk about Meta. I presume that you guys are curious around what happens within the meta walls, right? So I'm going to go at two different angles. First, a macrocosm, showing you a big picture that sheds light into a little picture, and then walk through a microcosm, right? A small example that we can all hinge onto and act as a prism to something much bigger. And then the fourth is the operational shift, okay? How did we move from a centralized resource into the hundreds in terms of campaign creation, okay? That's the structure. Thought question. Think about a time where something did not scale well. Think about a time where something did not scale well and why, okay? I'm gonna pull the audience in a couple of minutes here, right? But it could be your own campaign creation process. My campaign creation process did not scale because of, what's that word, right? Think about it. And because I've sat in these seats before, I know that half of you are not participating in this thought exercise right now, so I'm going to simplify the question a little bit, because it doesn't have to be an enterprise or a work example. It can be an everyday example, right? For instance, does anyone like to cook? Show of hands. Anyone like to cook? Okay. Cooking for 2 people is fundamentally different from cooking for 10, right? Because when I cook for me and my wife, perfect, medium, rare, each and every time, right? When we invite the extended family, right? Some people eat at 6, some people eat at 8, some people just don't eat, right? It doesn't scale. Why? Why does that happen? What words come up when that event happens? Traveling. People like to travel, right? Traveling between 2 people, fundamentally different from traveling with 10 or 15 or 20. Why is that? What's the difference between 2 and 20? And because we're in Vegas, dating, relationships, right? Relationships between 2 people is fundamentally different from relationships and dating 10 people, right? Why? Why is that, Brendan? Right. No, Brendan is a married man, father of 5 kids, master of dad jokes. So I love it. He knows scale. Yeah, he knows scale. 5. Thank you for that. Speaking of dad jokes, did you guys watch that new Netflix documentary, Constipated? Probably because it hasn't come out yet. All right. Yeah, thank you. All right. I'm a newly minted father, so I'm working on it. All right. Back to the task at hand, okay? So now that you have a word in your mind, it would be easy for me to pull my stage mates, and Tori, I'm sure you put some planters in the audience here. Don't answer. Let's embrace awkward silence together, okay? I'm gonna pull the audience and shout it if you got it. What are some barriers to scale? Shout it. Preferences. Good. Who said that? Where's that? Good. Preferences is a barrier to scale. Dinner, right? Did you know a single peanut can ruin a dinner party, right? People have preferences. Medium rare, well done. I don't know, right? It just happens, right? Good. What's next? Anyone? Resources, right? Lack of resources is a barrier to scale. Great. What else? I'll take 2 more. Process. Got it, right? Sometimes processes can be too big or complex or whatever it is, right? Or undefined, right? Anyone else? Any brave souls? Time. Time is a barrier to scale, right? We don't have enough time in the day, so we got to be very agile, right, in terms of how we move, okay? So you've answered it, right? There's a lot of answers. There's a lot of barriers to scale. The cards are stacked against us when it comes to scale, right? We look at users, right? There's too many users, right? We got to teach 100 different users a thing, or maybe there's too little users, bandwidth, right? It just bottlenecks, barriers to scale. Bureaucracy, brand has an opinion, legal has an opinion, security has everyone has an opinion into the campaign creation process, right? Barriers to scale. I was polling my coworkers this question, and he was like, people are stupid. People are stupid, right? And I was like, well, I'm not sure if I can use that in the presentation, so skills gap, right? It's not their core competency. They don't know how to do a thing. And some people just don't care, right? Do we have people that don't care about processes? within the organization, right? Don't care to follow it, right? So on the top layer, a lot of people, right? And we know the phrase in the industry, people, process, and technology, right? So on the bottom layer, the complexities. Someone said, like, a lot of the processes, right? It's complex. The tooling, right? Would you agree there's a fundamental difference between cooking with a 10-inch skillet compared to a 50-inch barbecue 20 BTUs? Yes? Because it can enable, right? But sometimes those experiences can be unpleasant, I don't know how to do it, or unstructured, so requirements change over time, okay? So that's the message here. There's a lot of reasons why things can fail, right, and not scale. And so my thesis, the main point for today is, in order to scale to the hundreds or to the masses, is the technology and the processes, they need to be simple, and the people that interact with these processes and technologies, they need to be delightful. And I think I know what you're thinking. Too simple, too easy, too markety. Right? Too markety. Don, I went to 20 different sessions, spoke to 50 different vendors, bigger, better, faster, simple, delightful. It doesn't hold, right? And I'm also critical of my own slides, right? But the thought is easy, but not often applied in my own observed experience at Meta. We have the temptation to fight complexity with more complexity. We patch things together, we cobblestone, we Frankenstein, we know all these buzzwords, right? Because we need to build on top, build on top, build on top in order to satisfy a requirement. Agreed? Right? And so the challenge is to how to step back from that. I'm going to say something provocative here. I know where we are. We are at an Adobe conference, right? Marketo. I love it. It's done great things for my career. Friends at Marketo here, right? People who use Marketo here. Not simple. And oftentimes, not delightful, okay? Salesforce.com, love it, certified, use it. Not hyperbole, I don't know a salesperson within our organization that uses it, right? And if I have to explain the differences between a lead and a contact and an account and an opportunity and a campaign object and how that does all this attribution model thing, I'm gonna go crazy, right? I'm gonna get committed. Right? Not simple, not delightful. By the way, did you know that Salesforce has a field limit, how many custom fields you can create? 800. You know how I know that? We hit it. Jeez. So getting a custom field at Meta, an act of Congress, right? So the point here is, hold me accountable to this premise, okay? So as I go through the macros and the micros of Meta and apply the answers, or like the tooling, does the idea of simplicity and delight hold true? Okay, hold me accountable to that, because I'm not about smoke and mirrors here, okay? Macrocosm. At the very high level, we're familiar with Meta, right? We know Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Oculus, now Quest, right? So there's a lot of different properties, the 4 billion, right? I'm gonna be very clear that my purview, our purview, is Meta for business. Okay? Those are the business users, the people who use Facebook in order to build awareness, to create a customer-centric atmosphere or monetize their own businesses. Okay, so I'm gonna be very clear. So it's the advertisers, the partners, the creators, so on and so forth. Where that sheds light into the little picture is the movement of culture. That's why I love working at Facebook. It's not just plan a thing and do a thing, but whatever's on the headline, we need to respond to it very, very quickly. And you've seen the headlines, right? The COVID response, election integrity, or iOS 14 updates. Apple does a thing to block the signals on Facebook, and our advertisers like, well, we don't have the signals to advertise to our audience, so what do? We visit booth 521 in the conference room hall, okay? We have a solution for that, okay? So just know that we move at the speed of culture. To the microcosm, this is my only eye chart. Okay, this is my only eye chart, and intentionally so. Okay? The point of this slide is we have a very small centralized operations team. Very small, right? And we support 30 different groups within Meta business groups. 30 different, right? And within the 30, 200 people are represented with a lot of emails and a lot of webinars. That's the slide, okay? The microcosm is to focus on 2 boxes here, okay? First, our partnership with Knak, thank you, Pierce, right? And the genesis story of our global newsletters. And the point here is, as I transition into the future slides here, is we have to look at this as the microcosm, right? And then multiply this by 30, 40, 50x. Okay, so if you guys can do me that favor as well, because I want you guys to, I want to grasp us and latch onto something very tangible, okay? That's the intention here. Okay, global newsletter, okay? Very simple, right? A lot of us have a routine of newsletters, right? So our global content team says, hey, these are the 4, 5, 6 articles that is relevant across a wide-ranging audience. So we build it. Great, okay? Layer 2 is we have a lot of vertical marketing managers, commerce, education, technology, automotive, right? They say, hey, I want to segment out this audience and feature some articles. Another 2, 3, 4, 5 articles. Yeah? So all of the global content gets pushed down, and we feature, right, through a lot of dynamic segmentation. You guys all know the deal, right? To make sure it's relevant to this particular vertical. And then the third layer here is, wow, we're a global company, so we got to translate, right, into 15 different languages. And then I realized there's actually a fourth dimension here is through the different countries as well. So the country managers want to say, hey, within my specific country, I want to create 2, 3, 4, 5 different articles, right, and then move their global content down. At the end of the day, we have 75 different versions of this global newsletter, right, that gets deployed globally every single month, right? Globally, every single month. It's a big production cycle. Okay. But again, microcosm. It's a small picture into something much, much bigger. And this is a lot of energy in itself. And we're all familiar with this, right? There's an intake process, right? I don't care if it's a Reich or Monday or Asana or Workfront, right? Or a piece of paper or a napkin, whatever it is, right? Someone writes something, right? Hands it off to someone to produce the thing, right? Through a production. They review it, and we approve and send. The circle of production life, seamless and easy, yeah? Before I get into my next slide, show of hands, who saw the day 1 keynote? Good. So, 4.5 years ago, before I joined Meta Facebook, right? That keynote was my kind of visual in terms of this is what happens at Facebook, right? You go to Workfront, everyone's there in this beautiful community, all the imagery, all the assets, all the content is there. You click 4 buttons and magic happens, right? Distributed. And you talk to a robot and now it just happens? Good Lord, I love it. And that was my imagery of what happens within Meta. Surely we've got it solved. But no, this here is our content supply chain. Yeah. Excel. And I'm realizing in my career here is the only difference between Meta and my other careers in mid or startups is just a lot more rows and a lot more columns and a lot more tabs, right? Show of hands. Anyone use Excel still to capture? Thank you for solidarity, right? We still use Excel to capture, right? And so I know it's hard to see, but we're literally asking our content marketers, our global, country, vertical, to say, hey, give me the title, give me the content copy, give me the image URL, give me the tracking URL, give me all of these things, article by article by article, subject line, pre-header, alternate text, all of those elements of the email, put it in an Excel. Okay, we take 75 different Excel sheets, right? We're gonna build it, right? And then we're gonna send it out, and then there's gonna be a green, yellow, red situation that goes on here. My God. Right? Approved, revised, rejected, oh my gosh, what's going on? Right? Problem statement, right? 30 different marketers in this one single motion, microcosm, right, to a constrained resource. Big problem, right? And we can't handle it. So what do? Spend more on the agency, backup, right? Great resources, right? And then from there, the agency produces it, and then they hand it over. And how many times do we as producers build exactly according to specifications? Handful, maybe sometimes, never, right? And even if we do, how many times does the author want to change something after the fact? All the time, right? So 75 times 3 and 4 and 5 iterations. And so all of a sudden, the quality of work, it diminishes over time. And I've seen it. It's frustrating. Right? Because we put a lot of energy in this, and it's not rendering correctly, or there's a litany of problems, Operational shift. Now we're going to talk about the operational shift, okay? The idea here is when we were talking to Knak is let's build the vision. Okay? Let's build the vision together, right? What if we were to decentralize this and create a self-service model for them, the 30 different marketers, right, to build their own emails? And that thought, by the way, is scary, right? Because you've seen what people can build, right? I've seen like emails that thumb scroll 10 different times. Like, why are you writing War and Peace inside of this medium, right? So you need to control the experience as well, right? And then move the experience from a spreadsheet into something in their own email creation. And points 2 and 3 is it eliminates the dependency on that central team, right? So that we, the agency, our central team, we can focus on impact and evolving and doing a lot of the other things that is required of us, okay? That's the vision. So how do we do that? We hand them a napkin, right? Here's the napkin, right? And if I saw this, quite frankly, about face, exit the door, right? Give me my Excel. I don't want this, okay? Give me my Excel sheet. I love my Excel sheet. I'm not going here, okay? And I get. But there's things that we can do to help enhance the experience. And so one is to create the templates, right? Just pre-build the emails for them in such a way with lorem ipsum, some prompts here, and hey, here's what the imagery looks like. By the way, my phrase in order to get people in here is if you've mastered the art of copy and paste and drag and drop, you've mastered Knak, okay? And I'll prove it, okay? But here it is, okay? Here's the template. And then you're like, well, Don, didn't you just say some marketers have 3, 4, 5, 6? So it changes, right? It's not just one template that fits, it's a one-size-fits-none situation, right? So you need to enable them, right, to add on or to delete. And so we have modules, right? Modules that control the experience and the different iterations of this email. And these modules are important for us is because it's not just Facebook, but it's also Instagram and WhatsApp and Oculus and developers and Blueprint, and I can go on, right? So there's different modules for different brands' experiences. So some stakeholders have this collection, others have that collection. Okay, so we can control very easily. Okay? And then there's like, what about the approval process, right? Well, no more green, yellow, red, right? We can just drop a pin, because when I see green, yellow, red, what does that mean, right? What does that mean, right? Now there's contextual cues, right? Dropping pins and go through that. So if legal has an opinion or your art director has an opinion, they can all seamlessly see the same things and make changes very quickly. So what's the net result of this? 22 minutes. 22 minutes, right? Because gone are the days where we curate something, build something within Marketo, and hand it over to our German counterparts, and they're saying, oh, well, there's a missing period here. So it takes 24 to 48 hours for us to triage that, to receive that, to add a period, right? To make one change, because everything relies on us from a production perspective, right? So that's the key there, right, is how do we enable our marketers? And then my last slide, my favorite. In my sales days, there was a phrase called a fool with a tool is still a fool, right? So you can inherit or implement the most incredible technologies within your tech stack, right? But if no one uses it, does it make a sound, right? If no one uses it, it's a failed project. Agreed? Agreed? Right? Because we do a lot of that. We chase after that thing, implement it, and no one uses it, right? So the story that I'm going to leave you guys with is the launch of Knak. Okay, so we did all our preparatory work, and we're ready to launch. It was a soft launch, okay? It was a soft launch. So do the normative practice. Go into your spreadsheets, because I know you love it. It's known, it's familiar, right? And then we're going to hand it over to our agency to do it. Yes? In parallel, just log in to Knak. And then make mistakes. That's how we positioned it. Make mistakes. It's okay, right? Make the mistakes so that we can, at the end of the month, we can learn and compare and say, hey, you did this one incorrectly, you did that one incorrectly, and that's okay. You can learn. Iterate, right? Publish and iterate. Publish. You know the cycle, right? About 3/4 of the way through the soft launch, we realized that the most recent and most complete version of that email was, guess where? In Knak, right? And then it was in that minute, I was like, should we just go to production with this thing and then sunk cost on the agents? We did. Amazing, right? Delivered it, and then it hit and surpassed our benchmarks from a metrics perspective. And if that does not, well, let me pause, sorry. We hit the tipping point, right, on the soft launch. We hit the tipping point on the soft launch, right? Because sometimes it takes months and years for change management. Agreed? It takes a long time for that cultural shift. But to hit the tipping point within the soft launch, if that does not scream simplicity or delight, I don't know what does. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Unbelievable. So every time I hear you speak, I get so fired up. So yeah, you know, it's such a great story what you've done with Knak at Meta and empowering the marketers. I love to see what you've done there, taking them out of spreadsheets and really putting that control back into the marketers' hands to be creative. That's really what Knak is all about. I'd like to bring our next speaker to the stage. Paul has done pretty much everything in marketing operations. He has been on the customer side, on the consulting side, on the partner side. Paul has led marketing ops at Marketo, at Adobe, at Slack. He was the VP Ops at Salesforce. And fun fact, Paul actually led the build of Adobe's Marketo instance. So really excited to have you, Paul, and take it away.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Thank you, sir. Good day. Very excited to be here. I think there was one gap in Don's presentation that I do want to call out. 75 newsletters, different variations, getting that all out the door. You'd like to credit Knak. Your energy on this stage is proof that technology has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm just going to set that record straight. So what I'd like to talk about today is I kind of look at what Don was talking about in terms of it being the canvas and the process of getting emails out the door. And what we've been challenged with at OneTrust is this is a 7-year-old company that has grown through acquisitions. There's a lot of new work that needs to be done. There's been so much change going on. So I'm going to look at this from the perspective of the technology part of marketing operations and think a little bit about what's around the corner, what's the future of what we need to prepare for as marketing technology professionals. So when I think about the past for OneTrust and what brought us to where we are today, I really think that there's a good analogy in the growth cycle of a business to being like the seasons of a binge-worthy show. And my partner Ginger is here in the room with me, and she can validate the fact that, you know, we're big fans of shows on Bravo. So I think Bravo has a missing gap in their set of binge-worthy series. I think marketing operations needs a Bravo show. I mean, if you watch Below Deck, you know all of the different characters that are in marketing operations that you'd like to see battling out various conversations. So if I think about OneTrust as a series of seasons, you know, the first seasons have really been the foundational growth of the brand being introduced to the world. You know, the cookie banner universe, adapting to GDPR, it's that foundational narrative of the business. And then as the business has grown, we go through the seasons of, you know, love at first sight. Everyone starts buzzing about the show you want to see. Then you get into hyper growth with Gold Rush and looking at the numbers and seeing all the revenue that's coming in. We go through and we're trying to take over the world, and we've been pretty successful so far in this space. And then it's that drive to survive. And so in that drive to survive, the business did a number of acquisitions. From a marketing, technology, and operations perspective, acquisitions keep us up at night and employed. So when I want to talk through what the present state is, we'll talk about last season and this season. So when I joined OneTrust last year, the ecosystem of CRM and marketing technology were ecosystems from 4 brands. And in the span of the last 13 months, we had 2 HubSpots, a Marketo, and an Eloqua instance that we migrated to a new Marketo instance. We had the CRMs of 4 businesses that needed to be integrated and collapsed into the core OneTrust CRM implementation. The challenge in that narrative is our marketers were brought together into one group. We were transitioning the legacy brands you see on the bottom into the OneTrust brand. So we had brand asset changes. We had a hodgepodge of delivery systems in the back end. We had new marketers and existing marketers suddenly needing to market different products. And also in the reality of last year, we laid off 1/3 of the company. So the marketing operations team went from 14 to 7. So in doing that, Knak became the operational layer that unified asset development, regardless of what the delivery system in the back end was. So instead of a OneTrust marketer who was familiar with Eloqua needing to also learn Marketo and HubSpot, because those were the platforms the other audience, we brought them to Knak. So Knak became the equalizing layer of technology in front of other systems. And that's when my light bulb moment came on, and we'll look ahead to the future shortly. But this year, season 7 of OneTrust, what we're doing is we're entrenching the brand, the OneTrust brand. So at the end of last year, we reskinned what OneTrust looks like. A large part of last year was collapsing the acquired brands of Conversant, Tugboat, Planetly into OneTrust. And then we reskinned the brand, and now this year, we're looking to entrench that brand. So I'd ask you to think about what a brand experience really means. In today's world, digital experience of an organization is the experience of the brand. And if you look through this kind of description and definition, as marketers, we know that this is all core elements of brand experience. And we take pride in being good at these things. So the marketers here are going to look and say, we got this covered. Consistency, authenticity, this is what we do all day long, and we're great at it. But the reality is, the brand experience doesn't stop when the marketing lead is passed to sales. And that's what the challenge is. So in our technology ecosystem, there's a lot of technologies that deliver brand experience beyond the marketing team. So we're all familiar with those systems and technologies that we work in and day out. And then as the customer moves farther in their journey with the brand, there are more systems and more technologies that they interact with. So this year, as we're working to unify that brand experience, this is what we're challenged with. There are many systems we don't control, but that deliver the experience of what that brand is, what OneTrust feels like. You can all think of brands that do this really well. It might be Apple, it might be Netflix. You don't really know where you're at if you're in the marketing part of their systems or the sales parts of their systems, if you're opening a support ticket. the brand has a cohesive feel. We're working to do that same thing. I'll highlight, if you look at the two people on horseback, it doesn't matter what system is delivering an email. If it doesn't look right, they're coming for us. It might have come from Gainsight in the sales organization, but I'm gonna get an email from the CMO saying, who sent this email? And gone are the days where you can say, oh, it wasn't Marketo, so it wasn't, it's our fault. So how do we get there from here? That is an asset development layer that can speak across systems. So Knak becomes the brand experience layer. As we extend the way that we curate that brand, we do it across systems that we haven't yet touched. And those integrations are, hopefully, take note, Brendan, those integrations are on the roadmap. So. But today, you can download assets and import them anywhere. So we can take that brand experience and let BDRs, CSMs, various people into Knak to develop their assets and deliver them from whatever the appropriate platform is for their part of the business. So that notion of a brand layer or an asset development layer is what we're focusing on this year as the technology that enables a consistent brand experience across the business. And we're doing that so that we can empower all parts of the business with the guardrails, the approval process, the consistent experience for them to deliver assets to the market. And we're doing that this season of OneTrust. But part of what I'm preparing for are the seasons 8 through 10. And when I think about seasons 8 through 10, it's the encroachment of machine learning into further elements of the marketing process. So I think about the content development universe that we are all going to see in the next few years, where content is driven through machine learning that knows not only what's happening on the internet, but when those systems are pointed at internal data sets, the annoying email from the BDR asking if you'd like to have a meeting next Tuesday because they realize that you breathe oxygen and they breathe oxygen, so you should probably talk to them. The content in that email is soon going to be derived from machine learning, paying attention to what's happening in the news, consuming information that comes from LinkedIn, and putting together a more compelling message that might actually get you to agree to that meeting. So to prepare for that, that asset development framework becomes the consistent layer into which you pull content. So this definition of brand experience wasn't mine. This is GPT. So we've seen content today that was compelling, useful, and I thought insightful, that was derived from machine learning. And that's a change that marketing technology professionals, I think, need to be thinking and preparing for in the near future. Because all of those content sources are going to get pulled together, and context will then be a machine learning derived piece of relevance. Content will be pulled together, and that asset development framework is the way that those are all pulled in and then delivered forward. Thanks a lot. I'd love challenges on this, so.
Thank you so much, Paul. That was amazing, and I feel, your vision for the future of what is next. I'm always so interested in hearing your perspective on that. I think both Don and Paul really touched on something that's really fundamentally core to Knak, which is we exist to empower marketers to be creative and efficient. I think we've all heard efficiency talked about over and over again, but I think the creativity component, when we are all numb to all the messages that we're getting hit with every day, it's that human connection that people can really cut through the noise and engage. We talked about a lot of different aspects of Knak. Really, at the end of the day, we make it ridiculously easy to build emails and landing pages, and we do it at enterprise scale. So we work with a lot of Adobe's biggest customers, and we would love to chat more with all of you about that. We do have some time for Q&A, so would love to turn it around. Brendan has a mic, and we'll grab, first question up here. Yeah, you didn't get enough steps in this week, right, Brendan?
Check. Hello. Great presentation. Thank you, guys. We use Knak in my company, and
Awesome.
we dig it. I wanted to ask a little bit about, because Don, you were talking about a lot of localized versions of newsletters, for example. Where and when do you localize? Are you localizing in Knak through some sort of a connection to a localization provider, and then you're importing into Marketo, or are you localizing somewhere along the way or in Marketo itself? Where's localization happening?
Good question. And you have a product roadmap for that too, right? So I'll queue you up. I'll queue you up later. But the answer is, you ready? More spreadsheets, right? So truly so, right? We hand this spreadsheet over. Earl, by the way, is an ex-Meta employee, and we're compatriots here. And so that happens.
So is that a plant?
I don't know if that was this is candid here. And through more spreadsheets, quite frankly, right? So that spreadsheet that you saw earlier, it gets shipped over to our translation agency, right? And then we receive that and then do the Marketo build.
So
Building in Knak,
Yeah.
localized, and then importing them. You're building them localized in Marketo.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. I take that back. Now we do it through the Knak module as well. So the localized internally, right? And then we have a team that builds that out in Knak.
So we heard that from a lot of our customers, right? We're working with almost every one of our enterprise customers is marketing globally. They all need to translate in 70 languages. And so what we have built this already. We connect with your translation partner, and we have also done it with AI as well. So you can push a button, select which languages you want, and Knak will spin up those 70 new emails or 70 dynamic content versions of one email. So that's coming out next 60 days. We'd be happy to walk you through what that looks like, but very excited. I think what we've learned is because we're so close to the creation process, there's all these opportunities for making everything downstream a lot easier. So yeah, the vision is pick the languages you want, do it through AI or through an agency, and then we handle the rest.
Sorry, could I add more context? Because I just remembered.
Yeah,
So yes, translate Excel. We build I'm using vernacular here, or jargon. We save that as a module, right, within Knak, and then we distribute it to our countries. Because then they have one module, one version of that in French, German, Japanese, with the brr, right? And then they can drag and drop their own modules on top of that, right? So the different versions are there within the system as a module, already there, right? And then it gets distributed to the different countries, and then they can just curate that, right? Because someone said preferences, right? I don't want a one-size-fits-all. I want to be able to add a little bit of cayenne pepper to my emails, right? So that it can be more relevant. Okay, sorry. Just wanted to add that.
Great question. Anyone else? Let's make Brendan run a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. If anyone does have any questions, we have a booth right beside the Adobe booth. You can come by, win an elephant. And Don and Paul actually are going to hang out at the booth after this, so if anyone wants to chat more, thank you so much for coming. I know it's the last day of the conference, and you've been to 1,000 sessions, and it's probably all sounding the same now, but really appreciate you coming out to the session, and yeah, have a good rest of the show. Nice, dude. That was awesome.
Oh, careful.
Good job, Paul. Yeah.